Hey guys, welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. I have a special case I wanted to share with you tonight. It is a cold case from here in Arkansas that has been solved after 42 years. I'm always it always makes me happy to be able to bring you some good news on a case when it is solved, and especially since it's here in my home state of Arkansas. It makes it a little bit more extra meaningful to me. Of course, every case I cover, no matter where it's from, touches me in some form or another. But I'm just, like I said, just so excited to bring you this case. The case is from 1981, 81 or 82. Um, and it was actually solved sometime in 2022, but just a few days ago, the local news sources here released the information. So when I saw it, I was just, like I said, ecstatic about getting some good news about the case. So we will get into it quickly. But first, as always, um, get my slides up here. Oh, wrong slide. We have our featured missing person, and this information comes from the Morgan Nick Foundation. Jaden Green went missing from Sherwood, Arkansas on October 13th of this year, so just about a little less than 2 weeks ago. She is 16 years old, 4'11", 160 pounds, white female, brown hair, brown eyes. She was last seen in Sherwood, and it did, if I remember correctly, it did say that she was considered a high risk endangered. So please, I will put a link to this information. I actually got it off the Morgan Nick Foundation Facebook page. So I will go back and find the post, and I will put a link to it in the description box. I can't talk tonight as usual. So I implore you, please share it anywhere and everywhere you can, because the more people that see it, the better. All right, so we will get into our case. So this is the case of Karen and Gordon Alexander. Karen and Gordon were siblings. Let me go ahead and give you, on the right, or on the left, excuse me, there is Karen Alexander. She was 14 years old. And on the right is Gordon, who was her brother, and he was 13. And they were killed on April 7th, 1981 in Texarkana, Arkansas. So, and any of you watched any of my other videos know that I say that, of course, all cases touch me. But when it comes to children and elderly senior citizens, it just something about it just affects me more deeply, and it just makes it that much harder to think about. But anyway, so we have this siblings, Karen and Gordon. Oh, come on, my slides aren't working as usual. All right. So they lived in on a college hill in Texarkana, Arkansas, and the picture there you see on the left of the slide is the actual house. It says here that it no longer exists, so I'm going to assume that it was demolished or something of that nature. But anyway, so Weldon Alexander, who was the Karen and Gordon's father, he called the police at around 7:15 a.m. on April 8th, 1981. He worked the overnight shift at the Cooper tire factory. And he claimed, so he said when he returned home that morning around just after 7 a.m., he said when he walked up onto the porch, he noticed that the screen door and the front door were open or were ajar. So he went inside, and he claimed that he found his 13-year-old son, which was Gordon, deceased in the kitchen, and that he thought that his 14-year-old daughter might still be alive on her bed near the living room area. Now, pay attention to how, and I don't know if those are his exact words or just how they were written in this article. But if these are his, pretty much how he said it, keep those, how he stated it in mind. So he called the police. And the police arrive. Officers Terry Spearman and Bobby Thomason. So Weldon, the father, told the two officers that he had removed a kitchen knife. Oh, and I forgot to say trigger warning. So time out for a second. Trigger warning. Of course, I'm not going to go into any graphic detail, but this subject matter does include the harming of children and the SA of minors. So just if that will trigger you or bother you, which it would bother anybody, I just wanted you to be aware of some things we're going to be talking about. So with that taken care of. So Weldon, the father, told the police that he had removed a knife, a kitchen knife, from Karen's body, and that he had placed it on a bookshelf that was nearby. Before, I don't know if it was before he called the police, but it was definitely before the police officers arrived. So keep that in mind. So the two officers were investigating, and they confirmed that Gordon was deceased in the kitchen from an apparent sharp instrument trauma, and that Karen was found lying face up on a bed in the living room. She was still breathing, but she had sustained several stab wounds. So keep in mind what I said earlier. Like I said, if those words were the father's pretty much exact words, that he thought his daughter might still be alive. Now, to me, and this is just my opinion, if I came in a house and found one or any number of my loved ones, obvious harm to them, I would definitely get close enough to them to check to see if they were still alive. Like I said, it could have just been the way the article was written. We don't know, but just there was a little red flaggy to me. So Karen was taken to St. Michael Hospital, where she later passed away from her injuries. And I believe in the article that I read that it was 3 days later that she passed away. So she lived for 3 days, basically in a coma, after she was stabbed before she passed away. So ironically, Vera Alexander, who was Karen and Gordon's mother, and she's pictured here in the slide, she had been previously admitted as a patient at a different hospital when the crimes occurred. Now, from the way it says, she had been there since the previous weekend as a mental patient. Now, the way it's worded, I'm not sure if she was had been admitted to the hospital before her children were killed or if it was after. But I did read also in the article that she suffered from depression. So it may have been that she had already been admitted to the hospital before these crimes occurred. Like I said, I'm not 100% on that. So, but I just feel, of course, so bad for the victims and the victims' families in all of these cases that I bring to you. So over the next years, the Texarkana PD detectives, they went through all the evidence. They talked to and identified witnesses. They followed up on every lead that came in, to no avail, apparently. And there's on the left there is, you can see, if you can see it, it's kind of grainy, but detectives, on the left hand side there, or on both sides actually, doing their investigations. All right, so of course, in 1983, Henry Lee Lucas had been arrested in Williamson County, Texas, where he began. And anybody that follows true crime, I'm sure you know who Henry Lee Lucas is. But he confessed to hundreds of unsolved crimes across the country. So, being that he was in such close proximity at the time of these killings, Texarkana police actually went to Texas and brought him back to Texarkana to interview him. Now, during these interviews, Lucas did confess to these crimes. But he was not charged. No warrant was issued for his arrest. He was not charged because there was not sufficient forensic, physical, or circumstantial evidence to tie him to this case. So, of course, decades later, DNA evidence proved that Lucas lied in a lot of the crimes that he confessed to. He lied, didn't tell the truth, and this was one of those cases. I just wanted to include this because it was included with the information that was released about this case. Okay, so this is the man right here, Calvin Seward. So back when these crimes occurred, he was in his early 30s, it says, and he had been a Texarkana PD patrolman for about 8 years. So after the crimes occurred, he was assigned to the Criminal Investigation Division to follow up on leads, locate persons of interest, and things of that nature that take place during the investigation. So, unfortunately, as happens in a lot of these cases, they ran out of leads, and the case went cold. But Mr. Seward here, his resolve to identify the killer did not go cold. He might have kind of had to put it on the back burner for a little bit, but it was always in his mind. So through the next few years, he moved up in the ranks. He retired actually in 2004 after nearly 32 years of service. So God bless him for his service. And then apparently he unretired, and he worked for 18 years with the U.S. Marshal Service and the Texarkana Airport Police. Then he retired again. But it says he still had one last box that he wanted to check off before he completely retired and gave up police work. And that was the case of Karen and Gordon. So kudos to him for keeping this case close to him and wanting to try to find answers. And with help, so he enlisted the help of Dr. Todd Steffi. He was or he is a forensic criminologist. He has 30 years of experience in the field of forensic science. And any of you have ever watched any of my other videos, you know the science. I love all aspects of cases, but the science aspect has always fascinated me. So together, they started reviewing every aspect of the case. And through they consulted with Kelly Dixon, who was a DNA scientist at the Arkansas State Crime Lab. They determined that because of the advances that had been made in DNA analysis and how you can process stuff, that they were going to resubmit the evidence that had been last tested in 2012, hoping that they could, through these advancements in technology, that they could find some more evidence in the case. So I know I'm talking fast, but I'm just so excited about this case that anyway. So Seward, Steffi, and Dixon, they begin to process any and all evidence from the case. So in 2022, DNA was extracted from both Karen and Gordon's fingernail tissue, and they used that, let's say, as known samples to be compared to questioned DNA located at the crime scene. So I'm assuming that means DNA that was found at the crime scene that they could not match to anybody else. Of course, back in the 80s, you didn't have obviously all the technology that we have now, and I'm not sure about CODIS, if it was around in the 80s. I'm sure it probably was, but so they extracted this DNA, tested it, and they had success. I can get my slides to go. There we go. So after the DNA was tested, a familial relationship in the DNA determined that Weldon Alexander, who was their father, his semen was discovered on Karen's bedding. So you might say, well, he lives in the house. Yes, that's true. And it did say that the bed that she was found on after the crime was in the living room. So from that picture, it did kind of look like it was a smaller house. So it could be that she did not have her own bedroom, and so she just had to sleep on a bed in the living room. Like I said, I'm unsure. I'm going to do some more research on this case and maybe do a follow-up video if I can find any more relevant information about it in the future. I just wanted to get the basics out to you now as soon as possible. So the father's semen was discovered on Karen's bedding. So with this information and a statement from Detective Gary Stringer, who was one of the lead investigators and one of the first detectives to arrive at the scene back in 1981, they learned that Gordon Alexander, when they found him or examined him, that he was cold to the touch when police officers arrived at the scene. So I would take that to mean that he had been deceased for some time before to already be cold. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I just try to read and watch other YouTube creators that are professionals at this, that know their stuff, and try to retain some of that information. All right. So this new evidence led this team of three, the Seward, who was the detective, Steffi, who was the forensic scientist, and then Karen Dixon, I think it was her last name, who worked at the Arkansas State Crime Lab, formed this theory that the children were assaulted before Weldon, the father, left for work around 11 p.m. that previous night. They also said that they knew that there was no sign of forced entry into the home, and that Weldon was the last known person to see Gordon and Karen alive just before he left to go to work the previous evening. Both children were still in the same clothes that they'd been wearing the previous day. Weldon had been the person to discover their bodies, and the weapon used was considered a weapon of opportunity. Apparently it was a butter knife that they said most likely came from the kitchen of their home. Okay, so another trigger warning. So Karen's injuries showed that she was a victim of SA, and that she had been assaulted numerous times within the 48 to 72 hours before she passed away. And the investigators also believed that she had been SA'd over at least a 6-month period before she died. So there were some very, very bad things going on in this household. Allegedly. Just from the evidence that they found and their investigation, this was not a good situation. So there are even more pieces to the puzzle, they say, that fell into place. There was no foreign, as they say in quotes, outside intruder DNA discovered throughout the investigation. So there was no DNA found at the crime scene that wasn't supposed to be there. That's the simplest way I know how to put it. Like I said, y'all out there are probably a lot smarter than me, so you already know this. The autopsy revealed, okay, we went over that. So another key piece, trace evidence discovered in the dried blood that was on Gordon's hands and Karen's body contained fibers, brass, copper, and zinc. And this is significant because all of those materials were used in the construction of tires at Cooper Tire, which is where their father worked. So that's more evidence building up against Weldon. I'm not going to call him Mr. because if this is true, allegedly, he was not, he was a very bad man. Very, very bad man. So, based on, and they say, quote, the robust body of physical evidence, Seward and Steffi prepared a probable cause affidavit naming Weldon Alexander as a probable suspect in the case. They presented the probable cause affidavit to the prosecuting attorney for review. She reviewed it, and she agreed that Weldon Alexander is the sole viable suspect in the killings of Gordon and Karen, which were his children. So, thank God that Calvin Seward, this retired, he was I think it says retired Arkansas state police captain. Stuck with this case, never forgot it. After he retired, he enlisted the help of other experts, and they basically got this case solved after 42 years. So, thank God for that. Like I said, it always makes me happy to be able to bring good news about a case. But it is tinged with a little bittersweetness because Weldon Alexander had passed away in 2014 at the age of 80. So they were not able to, yes, they got closure, but in my mind, and some form of justice, but he is not having to pay any price for his alleged crimes. But like I said, it's basically solved. The rest of the remaining family can move on. And I also did read that Vera, the mother, passed away in either 83 or 84. She took her own life, unfortunately. But with we talked about earlier that she had been admitted to the hospital for a mental condition for depression. So the depression on top of losing her children. Don't know if she knew, because when they talked about Karen being abused, I would just assume, and this is just me assuming, that her abuse may have been going on for a while. This is just my opinion. I don't know for sure, of course. But they said it had been at least 6 months prior to her death that she had been abused. I'm not saying the mother knew. Things can, because people always say, how can you not know that your child is being abused? But abusers, offenders have a way of, and it could be that the mother was abused too. Her husband was abusive to her, and if she had any idea what was going on with Karen, she might have been just too afraid to say anything. It's just domestic DV. I had to be careful what I say. DV is such a horrible and prevalent, and unless you've experienced it yourself or know someone who has experienced it, you can't grasp it. How it's just it. I'm going to get emotional, but anyway, we'll just leave it at that. It's very hard to get out of. Very, very hard. So this is I find this ironic and disturbing. Just a snippet of Weldon's obituary. You can see down the bottom, it says he was preceded in death by one son, Gordon, and one daughter, Karen, whom he allegedly was the one who took their lives. So like I said, it's bittersweet, but at least they got some, the remaining family got some measure of maybe a little bit of comfort, and just knowing what happened is a form of comfort. So we'll just thoughts and prayers to the remaining family. And the Texarkana Police Department released a statement that said, it is our hope that the friends and remaining family of Gordon and Karen Alexander may find some peace in knowing that scientific and circumstantial evidence has been revealed sufficient to resolve this 42-year-old case. We wish to express our greatest appreciation to the team of retired Texarkana PD Captain Calvin Seward, Dr. Todd Steffi of the Arkansas State Police Cold Case Unit, Kelly Dixon of the Arkansas State Crime Lab, and many other detectives, police officers, citizens, and advocacy groups who provided information and assistance in this case. So, very well said, very well put. You can tell that these officers and especially these three that worked so hard on to get this case solved. Kudos to them for sticking with it, and even after so many years, they managed to solve it. So, very, very happy about that. All right. So that was our case for tonight. Like I said, this was a special case for me. One, because, of course, like I said, is one of our cases, from here in Arkansas. And two, it was a measure of good news that it was solved. Do a little bit of multitasking here. So if you found this video informative or interesting, please leave me a thumbs up. Be very much appreciated. Can't get my stuff to work. There we go. If you like what I do here at Southern Gal True Crime, please do consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell to all so you won't miss any videos I upload. I usually upload on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays I have Missing Person Monday. Fridays I have my Cold Case of the Week. And then Wednesdays, just if I have something like this that comes up, that I want to share with you, I'll do that, or just something random true crime related. Um, so thanks for watching. Until next time, or I'll be back Friday with the case of the week. So until then, take care of yourselves. Be careful out there. Take care of each other. That's the most important thing we can do is take care of each other. So we can also make it through this life safely. So until Friday, I'll see you later. Bye bye.